All right, Kelsey here. Where's, all right, just getting set up so I can see the chat here. All righty, well, give it roughly another minute, but we do have a lot of information, so. All right, well, shall we? Ready?
Yes,
All right, I hope
yes, yes.
everybody's ready to pay attention. All right, I'm gonna make all you small so I can't see you. Okay, well, my name is Rachel Hardees, and I'm a counselor in town, and I'm working with these two awesome um, consortiums and agencies to bring to you this workshop about attention. And I love this quote. It's from a book called The Nature Fix, that attention is our currency and it's precious. All right, so, whoops, welcome. So we're gonna have appreciations and introductions. I'm gonna do a land acknowledgement. I'm going to talk briefly about stress in our nervous system, and then I'm going to talk about how attention connects with stress, and then we're going to spend time looking at ways that can help improve focus, improve attention. And so as I was preparing this workshop, there's a lot to be said about attention, and so just keeping in mind, we've designed these to be short, kind of bite-sized, tool-focused workshops. So some of the things when I talk about like stress in our nervous system, I'm going to be kind of simplified. And when we talk about attention, we're going to be talking about kind of one like sustained, focused attention. Some of you might know a lot of this information, or you might have heard it in different language, and hopefully you'll learn something new today or hear it in a different way. And if you have things to share, that's welcome too. I have a huge appreciation and acknowledgement to the Lower Elwha Clallam tribe and Ileana Jones from their sexual assault response team. They're hosting this work. She's helping me manage the video aspect and helping Clallam Resilience Project bring this information throughout the Olympic Peninsula. Ileana, would you please introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Ileana Jones, and like she said, I work for the Lower Elwha Clallam tribe for the SART program. That's a sexual assault response team. We do forensic examinations on all the youth in Clallam County. That's 18 and under.
Very important work. Thank you so much. And
Thank
I
you.
really appreciate the Clallam Resilience Project for sponsoring this workshop. And most of all, I really thank all of you for attending and participating today. So our land acknowledgement is please join me in expressing deep respect and gratitude for our Indigenous neighbors and leaders, the Lower Elwha Clallam, the Quileute, the Hoh, the Makah, and the Jamestown Sklallam tribes for their enduring care and protection of our shared lands and waterways. Thank you. Oops. All right. So chat in. We'd like to know who's here. In the name of creating community, we'd like you all to see who your neighbors are. So please chat in your name and how you would like to affiliate or identify yourself. And you're welcome to say that you're a caring community member. There we go. Thank you. Minnie put the information in the chat. So let's say hi, everybody. See where you're from. All right, Melanie from Peninsula College, Kioma, Lower Elwha Clallam Tribe, Liliana, Karen, DCYF, yes, Lower Elwha Clallam, Minnie, excellent Clallam Human Resources. So great to see so many agencies on here. Jessica, OMC, excellent, Carolyn. Lower Elwha. We got Lower Elwha is representing Ileana. Kelly from Olympic Peninsula Community Clinic. Oh my gosh, we're so excited that you're all here. All right, anybody else typing away there? Thank you, thank you, thank you. Chatting in or unmuting as we go is how how we can help to get to know each other. And so chat in or unmute and share like what stresses you out. I don't know, like public speaking, starting a new job, or I was thinking with our weather, maybe driving in the snow. Because we're going to talk about stress. Yeah, driving in the snow. Exactly, Melanie. Is that life? I assume Thomas life. Yes. Yes, right. So much of it. Absolutely. Yeah. What else? Well, poor sleep. Oh my gosh, for sure. Yeah, uncertainty. Spelling, right? Misspelling in front of people, almost like public speaking. Yes. Oh, yeah, right, Karen. Work, politics, current events. Yes. Talk about struggling with attention in current events. Can be very challenging. Family relationships. Absolutely, Melanie. Oh, you guys, thank you so much for sharing. Any other coming in there? I mean, I think this could be a pretty long list. The other thing is like positive life, things we label as positive life experiences can be stressful too, like people getting married and planning a wedding or starting a new job. That's generally considered a positive experience, but it's still stressful somewhat because of like Minnie mentioned uncertainty. So yes, so much about stress. And just notice as people went through that, like different things stress out different people, or different things stress us out in different ways. And as we're talking through all this stuff today, because we're talking about attention, I invite you to pay attention to where does your attention go? So bring awareness to where does your mind go sometimes, and bringing it back to where we are. All right, so a little bit about stress. So this is the same, similar from last time. So this will be a little bit of review for those of you who joined us 2 weeks ago. But I'm sharing this again, and I will share this in 2 weeks on our last one, because understanding how our nervous system works is our basis for well-being. And all of our nervous systems work similarly and they work differently. And so in anything I teach or when I'm counseling people or anything that I talk about, I can't tell you what to do. It's getting to know your own nervous system, your own stresses, your own challenges with attention, and finding ways to work with that. So generally, when we think about stress or when we talk about feeling stressed, I think it's usually out there as like it's a bad thing. It's a bad thing to feel stressed. Stress is harmful, and we should avoid stress if we can, or find some way to stop it. And the definition of stress is a state of bodily or mental tension. And Dr. Bruce Perry and his neurosequential network have this diagram that shows us there's a couple types of stress, or stress can go in 2 ways. So unpredictable stress and severe and prolonged stress keeps us activated, and it's exhausting to our minds, and it can then create vulnerabilities for illness. And when we're experiencing unpredictable, severe, or prolonged stresses, the thinking part of our brain, so the prefrontal cortex, becomes less engaged, which makes it hard to focus. So there's one of the connections with stress and attention. And so then psychologically, because our prefrontal cortex isn't as online, it's harder to problem solve. We end up with decision fatigue, probably a lot easier or a lot faster than we usually do. We can lose track of time. We can have a to-do list and forget it, or lose it, or not look at it, or have 5 to-do lists. That's what I tend to have. Make a lot of lists, and we can be quicker to frustrate. So that is the downside to stress, and we know it can lead to physical and mental health issues. The other part of it, though, is stress also helps us survive, and it can make us more resilient. Right? So there's predictable stress, such as today. I've known this date was coming for a long time, and I've had lots of opportunity to manage my stress around it. And that helps me know, like, okay, I can do this. And then I get through today, and I've done it, and I know I can do it again. It helps me build resilience. It's more controlled, and it's a fairly moderate level of stress. And just to kind of put it, it's the same idea as why people lift weights, to make our muscles stronger. So when we lift weights, we're creating small tears, micro tears in our muscles. It creates stress. It's stress on our muscles. And then our muscles heal. And as they heal, they're coming back stronger. So we can think of stress in that same way for our nervous systems and our mind. The other part of this is we cannot get rid of stress. The stress response is part of our autonomic nervous system. We'll talk about that next, but it's about keeping us alive. So we can't get rid of stress. And if you carry the weight or shame or guilt that you shouldn't feel stressed, or maybe shouldn't feel stressed about something specific, please, please, please be kind to yourself and let that go. We do feel stress. We have to feel stress. So it's about becoming aware of ourselves, our stress responses, and what we can do to work with our stress responses so that we keep them from being severe and keep them from being prolonged. Sorry, I'm pointing at my screen. You can't see that. And stress, there's a ripple effect out of stress from an individual into their family, into their workplace, into the community. It can be contagious. So any comments or thoughts on that? Oh, wait just a minute. Okay. So I used this last time too. Again, part of my experimentation with talking about our nervous system. So this is the autonomic nervous system, and this is the part that does all the automatic things in our bodies that keep us alive. And it's the one that's involved most in our stress response. It's what keeps our heart beating. It's what keeps us breathing. It works on our digestion, all these things without us having to consciously think about it. And what researchers currently believe is that it is all about scanning for safety. It's all about keeping us alive. It wants us to survive. So most sensations of stress come from the activation of our fight or flight response. However, if we're facing an ongoing challenge, we can get depleted. If it's prolonged, like we talked about, severe, or exceeds our ability and skills to respond, we might come in and deflate or go numb. I'm going to jump ahead to this one. So we might be immobilized. Again, pointing at my screen. The immobilized circle is where we can start to shut down if the stress has gone on too long. Mobilized is another word for the fight or flight, as is sympathetic nervous system. There's lots of names for these things. So anyway, but we're talking about activation. So we start with an experience in our nervous system, or sorry, an experience in our lives. And let's say, so I was going to think, okay, let's say today or yesterday or this week, our car starts to slide on the snow. Before we can consciously think, because our nervous system scanning for safety, our attention is usually pulled right back into the present moment and our stress response is activated. So I can have and we're not even having a perception or judgment in that time. That time we're just having an experience and we're trying to survive. So let's say then it passes. Now I can have a perception or a judgment about it. And I'm going to get maybe angry at the car that slid towards me or something like that. And I'm going to have this energy activate in my nervous system in all of this. Now I can notice it. I can get through that experience and notice, oh, that boy, my heart's beating faster. Maybe my breathing has gotten tight. If I'm well practiced in this, or if I make it myself, I can notice it. If I notice it, yes, I name it. Woo, I'm scared, really. That was scary. And okay, and right now I kind of need to shake, or I need to move, or I need to fidget. And then I repeat that over and over and over with any experience I have. That helps me manage my autonomic nervous system. Now, if my energy activates and I don't notice it, right? So I get through that experience and I just keep going. I drive to work. I can create a practice where I pause to notice. Like I actually think, okay, wait, before I go into work, I'm going to sit in my car. I'm going to pause. And I can pause and I can say, okay, now I'm going to name this like, whew, okay, wait, that was stressful. I feel scared. And then I can do it. I can breathe, move, fidget, and repeat. If I don't notice the energy and I just keep going through my day, then that energy stays in my system. And so I can have a chronic stress build up, and that's where we start to see mental and physical health issues. So the other part of then, this is another way of looking at our nervous system, a little bit more specific about the autonomic. So when we're relaxed, or when we're connected to ourselves, this is where there's some difference in how we present things. And what I've learned is we can't always be relaxed, but I can be connected to myself and aware of my experience. If I'm getting immobilized or if I'm getting mobilized, I might not be able to think as much. And then it's really important that we have overlaps because this isn't, everything is so intertwined. It's so connected. It's hard to say it's this, or that because we need some immobilization to settle down and go to sleep at night. We need mobilization to play or to get out of bed, right? That's the energy in our system that helps us. And we can be connected to ourselves, feeling safe and relaxed, and be playing and dancing in sports. So that's an overlap there. Then we have, if immobilized and immobilized overlap, we end up with a freeze response. So for a while it was fight, flight, or freeze. Now it's kind of fight, flight, or freeze, collapse. I mean, fight or flight, collapse, and then freeze, where the body itself's not moving, but the energy is highly activated. So, all right, that's our nervous system. Any questions or comments about that? Now I'm going to connect it back in with, right, and fun, exactly. Right? There's so many, so many, and it's helpful to know, and it's helpful to understand how we think it's working. And I fully expect all this information is going to change as we learn more. All right. Watching our time. Okay, so then now here we're talking about stress and attention. We got our sad little brain there. And so kind of going back to, if I have an experience on, let's say I have a near miss on the icy roads, and it activates my nervous system. And in that case, it's usually the flood of adrenaline, my heart's beating faster, my breathing's probably tight in that moment. Then the situation passes, but I can't stop thinking about it. It's keeping my attention. So now my attention is focused on the past. And I'm ruminating. And I was thinking maybe I'm even driving and thinking about the past. And now I'm not focused on my driving. And now maybe I'm starting to get angry, right? So I keep ruminating on it. And the rumination is keeping my nervous system activated, and my attention is staying in the past. Rumination is considered important for survival. It's also linked to depression and anxiety if it goes on, or for ruminating about something that we can't do anything about. Like I can't do anything about the fact that I nearly, had an accident on the icy road. I didn't, and it's done. But ruminating is by definition dwelling on thoughts, emotions, and experiences that stress us out. So in that way, it's going to activate our nervous system. And I've time traveled to the past. Other times I can time travel to the future. And maybe now I'm thinking about, oh, I have to drive this afternoon, or I have to drive on my way home from work. And now my stress response is going to get activated, and I'm going to start thinking about what could go wrong, or being worried about driving on the road. And again, I'm not in my present moment. In both instances, I'm activating my nervous system. And so because my attention is in the past and the future, I'm activating my nervous system, and maybe I'm not recognizing it, and I'm building up stress in my system. Generally, not always, but generally, being in the present is fairly okay. However, time traveling can be a way to distract ourselves from discomfort in the present. And so we can also time travel to like memories or future plans that help us feel good. And because the present isn't always great, sometimes we do need to distract ourselves, and it can be helpful. And I invite you to simply be intentional about how you're distracting yourself. So let's talk a little bit about social media. I tend to be very careful about not making social media be the bad thing. I think it's however we use it. I think we know there's things about it that are designed to impact our nervous systems. And I think if we can bring awareness to that, and then be aware of how we're using it to distract ourselves. So are we using it to get information? Or are we doom scrolling? And in that way, then we're activating our nervous system. Know why you're doing it, and be intentional about your time there. And if you are using a distraction, I would suggest finding a practice to help you learn to be with the discomfort just a little bit longer before you distract yourself. Because sometimes our distractions can activate us more. Like last night, I was watching a documentary about the O.J. Simpson and the trial and all of that. I lived through that. I remember it on the news, but I was watching it last night, and I noticed afterwards it was probably not the best thing for me to watch. It activated my nervous system. So let's see. And when we're activated and we're in the past or the present, then we're probably not doing our best on whatever we're doing in the moment or in the present moment. Like, for example, if I'm working on a project and things aren't going the way I want, it's likely to activate my fight or flight, and I'm going to get irritable, and I might feel my heart rate increase, and I might feel tension in my jaw and my face. And as a result, I'm probably not focusing well on what I'm doing. I might start making mistakes. And it can be helpful if I notice that stress. I can notice the stress and decide to take a breath or take a break. And I can distract myself with something that helps me connect more to my experience, usually our senses and movement. So just be aware of the things that you give your attention to. Are you in the past? Are you in the future? And bring awareness of how you're feeling in response to them, and if they're numbing you out or keeping you from being present. So I'm going to pause there before we talk more about attention. Are there any questions or anything landing that's helpful or surprising or confusing? And I'm going to take a drink of water.
The ruminating for me, I remember that was one of the things that I had to work pretty hard with myself and still do. It's the thinking and getting stuck, in the not in the present, but think about the past.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, well, and I think some of it is our brains want to problem solve. They want things to make sense, and we want to problem solve it, and we'll think about it. And some of that, I think, is what we'll talk about in 2 weeks when we talk about mindset and working with our thoughts. Yeah. All right. Well, if anything else gets stuck in thought or, oh, I have, or why didn't I? Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And all of that activates us and doesn't feel good. Oh, absolutely. All right. So just a definition of attention, according to Merriam-Webster, the act or state of applying the mind to something in Cambridge is to start to think about or consider a particular thing or person. Both of those are very voluntary. The American Psychological Association also talks about and presumes that we don't have an infinite capacity to attend to everything. There are, I can't remember, like lots and lots and lots of billions of pieces of input and data bits coming at us, and we cannot focus on them all. So we're going to focus on certain things, generally at the expense of others. And past experiences come in and impact our perceptions of our experiences, and we tend to notice things that have meaning for us, and we don't notice things that don't. They just kind of pass us by. So something that's interesting that I learned some time ago, I hadn't realized, there's different types of attention. And when we're talking about attention, we're mostly talking about sustained and probably selective. So sustained is what it sounds like, focusing on one thing for an amount of time without distraction, like reading a book or listening to a lecture or being here today, right? You're focusing for an extended period of time. Selective is picking out that one thing we want to pay attention to amid other distractions or other things in the environment. So listening to one person talk when there's a party going on, or working like while you're in a busy cafe. We have far more information coming into our senses and our brains than we can deal with. And then alternating is deliberately moving our focus between two tasks. And I really liked this example that I read was like cooking. If we're baking something new or cooking something new, we're reading a recipe, and then we're coming back and we're taking the action of the recipe, and that's changing our attention, and that's changing it in two very different ways. Or going over and helping a child with their homework and coming back and cooking our meal. And divided is this idea that we can attend to two different demands at the same time. Basically, it's multitasking or task switching, which is not something we're very good at, and we're dividing our attention between two or more tasks at the same time, but what we're really doing is very quickly going back and forth between them. And some of them are because things are habits to us. So listening to music while I'm driving, or while any of us are driving, we don't have to think about our hands so much. We don't have to be so focused on our driving that we can do both. But research suggests that we really can't focus on two things at once. And so in alternating, we're kind of giving things partial attention. Back and forth. All right. So, what are some things, share with us, what are some things that help you pay attention? Like if you know you're struggling with attention, what do you do? I put on, there's like so much music that's supposed to be designed or says it's designed to help us focus. So I put that on. A long time ago when we had headphones with cords, I used to plug it into my computer and made myself sit, like tether myself. And Karen, you're saying divided attention, that describes your workday. Yeah. So go back and tell your team that that is a very inefficient way to work. And if you guys could be more specific, more um, plan more how your day goes. And I know you can't always do that, but yeah, divided isn't so great. Stopping and breathing. Thanks, Melanie. Old movie. Yeah. Closing your, yeah, exactly, Jessica. Close your email. And Michelle, talking about going to a movie, you do it, you just going, oh, there's so many coming through, making checklists, silence and comfortable, volume. Yeah, reading is a stress reduction, if stress reducer, if you're reading something that's not upsetting. And so even um, if you're feeling challenged with attention, maybe reading that and coming back. Handwritten notes, yeah.
Checklist, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes setting a due date is helpful or having a deadline. Silencing notifications, like all the notifications, can be helpful. Excellent. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. And if you have more ideas that come to mind, please share them. So this is kind of a random thought, a slide on thoughts of attention, because I didn't want to make them individual slides. So the idea is like some of what we focus on is voluntary by choice. Right? I am here focusing on talking with you all, or I was focusing on creating the slides. My attention, I was choosing to put my attention there. Now, if I'm talking to you and I hear something loud from downstairs, that's involuntarily going to take my focus. It's going to alert me. And sometimes that's what notifications can do. They can pop up and now they've pulled our attention and we didn't mean for it to. Just like when we talk about dysregulation with the nervous system or the activation of the stress response, accept that your attention is most likely going to travel. It's most likely going to pop away to somewhere else, and notice. So it's a practice of noticing it and returning it to the present. And then like what a lot of you talked about, you can make a plan for your time, or you can create a practice throughout your day to notice what's pulling your attention, even if it's a 30-second pause and like, okay, what am I thinking about now? And or reward yourself for focusing. I do this one. I'll tell myself like, okay, all right, 20 more minutes, and then I'm gonna go watch this show, or I'm gonna go read this book, or something generally that I want to do, or that feels like a reward. But I'll make a deal with myself basically. Or creating a transition routine, or having a ritual or a tradition for when you finish work. Dr. Rick Hansen has a book called Hardwiring Happiness, and one of the things he talks about is if we just slow down and pause on what we would label as positive experiences, we can help build up our bank of those and help us notice those more. The thinking is that we default to noticing the negative because we need that stuff for survival. We need to know that. But he talks about when you finish something or when you check something off your to-do list, pause and feel how good that feels. Imagine that sensation absorbing into you rather than rushing on to the next thing. And just that pause, and he talks about like 10 seconds even, can be really helpful for us. Okay. So ironically, as I was working on this workshop, Mindful magazine, mindful.org, sent out information about the power of affirmations, and that affirmations are a way to focus our attention, a way to practice our attention. And so you've probably heard of affirmations before, simple phrases that you repeat throughout a day that bring you back to the now, and a way to train your attention. So one that I use with athletes is I think of it as a spotlight or a flashlight. And I think to myself, I'm like, all right, turn it on. And it means attend here now. Or simply just telling yourself, okay, focus, 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 focus. Yeah, this is Bella. She thinks that she's nice to me. I'll let her outside. Do you all have any affirmations that you use or anything that's like so? There's a movie that Matthew McConaughey was in. I can totally hear it in my head, and I don't remember the movie, but he's got a way of saying like, all right, all right, all right. And sometimes I do that in my head to help me focus, especially if I know if I'm having a hard time, I'll take a break and be like, all right, all right, all right, and I'll hear it in his voice. Anyway, anybody have affirmations they want to share? Well, put this in your toolbox. Think about what you can say to yourself that can help you. And it doesn't have to be anything fancy. I mean, it's just simple. It can be very simple. I'll often say to myself, oh, yeah, onwards. Yeah. Be like water. Oh, that's a good one, Shonda. You've got this. Yes. Liana, all within. Yes. Yeah, exactly. So any of those things, they are your touchstone phrase to come back to where you are now. All right, so then this is the big one, minimizing distractions. Right? The cost of interruptions. I got this. Yes, thanks, Izumi. You have a postie that says Q-tip, quit taking it personally. Yes, that's beautiful. Exactly. Exactly. So there's so many ways. It's excellent. Interruptions cost us in the workplace in productivity. Like I said, it takes they are a major source of stress and inefficiency in our workplaces, and it can lead to increased exhaustion, stress-related health issues, and an increase in error rates and mistakes. And like I think I said before, it can take us up to 23 minutes. I think I even read somewhere said up to a half an hour to refocus. So that's a lot of time, time lost. And I have a mentor who a long time ago taught me the tyranny of the urgent. And I think there's a meme, something similar, but it's like life will grab us by the hands or try to grab us by the face, whatever, and say, look here, now look here, now go here, now this, now that. Oh, Melanie, I like that. I use that one too. Your track record for getting through hard days is 100%. Yes, exactly. So then we have the tyranny of the urgent, and that impacts our nervous system because the sense of urgency in itself will create upset for us and create stress. And then it threatens to pull our attention in all kinds of different ways. So notice for yourself, what does that feel like? Hi, Bella, thank you. What does it feel like? And what can you do to help yourself focus? What can you do to remind yourself that, okay, no, that just because somebody else thinks that's important or that that's urgent, that might not really be urgent for me, right? Stepping in and taking control of it is your time and your attention. Where do you want to put it? And if you want to switch it, if it is like, oh yeah, no, that's a priority, that's an urgency, then switch it. But it's about being aware of it. Yeah, Karen, this too shall pass, right? Absolutely. It all passes. And now that we talked about silencing your phones, computers, I have a supervisor at work who has a whiteboard on his door, and he'll put focus time on it. And that's been described within the workplace. Everybody knows when anybody does that, don't talk to him, or that's a time where he's doing whatever work stuff he needs to do. But it's a time where he's protecting from interruptions. See, I feel like I had another thought on that, but I can't think of it, so maybe it'll come back. All right, so then grounding through nature, right? We live in such a beautiful place. And nature is so powerful. There's so much research on nature and how helpful it is. And grounding doesn't have to be in nature, but grounding is also a way of bringing us back into the present moment. So it can be a phrase, and I don't know if maybe you said like, oh my gosh, I need to ground myself. And so it's about bringing your attention into the present moment, usually using our bodies. And if we can go out and we can do it in nature, or we can literally ground by touching the ground or putting our feet in the ground or noticing the sensations of being in nature, it helps bring us into our present moment, takes us away from our ruminations, which can give us a moment to reduce stress. And there's a lot of research on the fact that being in nature helps us reduce stress. The Japanese have a concept of Shinrin Yoko, forest bathing, and it involves, like opening your senses to the woods. Right? And it doesn't have to be the wilderness. We have so many parks in our communities on the Olympic Peninsula, plus we have Olympic National Park. we have great ways, great areas where we can go out and experience nature through all of our senses. And 5 hours of nature a month is helpful, um, but do what you can. Right? So we have the local visitor center at Peabody Creek. We have the trails along the water. We have an abundance of nature that we can take advantage of. Looking out windows is even helpful if you have a nature view. Like I like to work mostly on my dining room table because I can see into my backyard where I have a bird feeder. It makes my table messy for eating on, but oh well. So nature is really helpful. Whoops. And just watching our time. So bringing ideas into the workplace, right? It can be about creating a culture where everybody has this shared knowledge and respects people's attention needs. Creating this culture in the workplace of understanding our nervous systems. Excuse me. Noticing, are there environmental changes that can be made? Excuse me, like maybe more plants or pictures of nature. And bringing an awareness or having a conversation among your team about what helps people focus, what helps people pay attention, what are some things that go on that aren't helpful. And so, if people need to doodle during meetings, that can be a really helpful way that people pay attention. Noise canceling headphones can be helpful if there's like mechanical noise. The fidgets, like we talked about a couple of weeks ago, drinking cold or warm water, tea, maybe having conversations, like if somebody you're talking to somebody can be helpful, but the really working to build a common language, understanding within our workplaces. Does anybody have any other thoughts or ideas about that? Or things you do in your workplace?
I knit and crochet at the computer,
Oh, yeah.
and it really helps me be able to focus auditorily if my hands are moving.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. Thanks, Shonda. Thank you. Organizing studio space, Kelsey? Yeah. Yeah, that feels really good to have things organized. I notice I surround myself with nature pictures. I counsel students 1 day a week at PC, and it's an inner office. There's no windows, no natural light. And so I have a big picture of Solduck Falls on the wall. Somehow being on a treadmill, right? Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. Scheduling in time to move, Karen. Absolutely. Absolutely. And plants in the office, quick walks. That's so important. Getting out for a quick walk. And I think that's a really good point is it doesn't have to be long. Anything is better than nothing, right? Something is better than nothing. And get up and walk around the block, get up and walk up and down. But getting up and moving is so helpful for us. And plants, I know, Ileana, you have a bunch of plants there. Yeah.
Yes, lots of plants. Bring the outside in.
Right, exactly. Exactly. Excellent, everybody. Well, thank you so much. I'm watching our time. So I just want to remind you, so attention, working with our attention is a practice. Our attention is going to wander, and it's about noticing, oh, I've left the building and coming back. And so it's a practice of getting to control your attention and getting to know yourself. And where you struggle to pay attention. I think I might have had that question and we kind of glanced over it, but notice what are the times where you have a hard time paying attention, and then think about how are you going to help yourself pay attention. And maybe it's like, so for example, like I don't do well reading financial information. I really want to understand stuff about finances, and I get the basics, but trying to get beyond that is just my brain doesn't like it. But I go to somebody who knows that stuff and they tell me about it. And so finding other ways maybe to help yourself if there's something that's a challenge. But controlling your attention helps you control your stress. And being discerning about where you put your attention is in your power. Thank you so much. So we have a poll. We love your feedback to notice how we're doing. Ileana is going to pop that up. And if you could answer those, that would be great. All right, we've got answers coming in. Thank you, everybody. This just helps us direct programming, helps us know what's helping you. Oh, and Thomas, thank you. Yeah, the power of habit. That sounds really good. I think I'm reading something similar by somebody else, or haven't, but thank you for suggesting that. Yeah, there's so much good information out there. So many great resources. All right, we've got 17 out of 19. Are two more people putting in their answers? Can we get to 100%? So if any of you, if you think your organization would like more information or would like a presentation, please contact the Column Resilience Project. And we can see what we can do for you. And let's see, these are some of the resources that went into today's information. Lots of different places, and this will we've recorded this and it will be sent out. And then sign up 2 weeks. We're going to talk about mindset. So we started with fidgets and we're talking about the body. This is was about what we're focusing on, what we're attending to, and then mindset is going to be talking about our thinking and our mind. Much to think of what you already do and forget, right? Yeah. Yeah, excellent. Well, I don't have anything else. Oh, there we go. Minnie put the resources in the chat. If anybody wants to copy that out. The Nature Fix is a really interesting book. I have it checked out from the Washington E-Library, and she's kind of doing it's kind of a meta-analysis of various research in the field and how scientists are really trying to figure out what is it about nature that is so helpful. And it's kind of a challenging thing to research. And in the end, if you're someone who knows you feel better after being outside, do it. That's your system telling you that that's good for you. And if you're someone who hasn't tried it yet, maybe go out and go into nature and notice things. Notice like we're coming into spring, so bulbs are pushing through, and at some point the ferns are going to come up. I don't know if you've seen how they all start off so tightly wound up and then they unfurl. So anyway, there's so much that's out there. It's really neat to see. Any questions with these last couple minutes? Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. So glad you're here. It's so fun. I love doing this, even though it stresses me out too. I really like it. Yes, 2 weeks. All right. Look forward to it. We're going to talk about mindset. Right. All right. All right. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Bye, Karen. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Bye, Jackie.